But as you go, because you sort of started putting on a wash of colour, it's the paper's starting to get sort of damp, as it were. It's somewhat easier to then put on your washes, and it starts blending itself a little bit because the paper's a bit damp, so that's helpful. Now because this is magenta, I can go up and right from the very top, because I do want that to be magenta up there. See, so now that was the first layer was blue. Now essentially we're doing another layer on dry brush that's magenta. I really want just sort of, yeah, really nice big lines. And if it misses, and I'll say this a lot, but if it misses and you can even see maybe the layer from last week underneath there, you can just see a couple of really light ones. I like that. That's always good. Let's see, we just want to add some detail in there. So still just using that magenta. And what I'm going to quickly do is water it down just a little bit, that wash, so it's not so strong. Because I will run a little bit through the highlights, but I want it to be soft. So now that's possibly a little darker than I want, but I know that by the time I do that smudging, and you can feel free to suggest another term, because that's not quite right, but I don't know what to say. By the time I do that with my brush, it gets lighter, so that's okay. And what I want to do is just gently run a couple of lines down through my highlight, not adding too much colour, maybe picking out a few stronger lines here and there, and then just touch up that little detail of knobbly bit that it is. So that's just a lighter, the lighter pink. I shouldn't put my fingers on. Hand on. So let's move it on. I'll put it down here, I guess, first. Let's see. I'll just run it through there just a little bit. Okay. And then so we can do that same sort of light wash. So let's see how light it is. A little bit, tiny bit lighter maybe. Okay, well, do the smushy bit. See, that's really, doesn't really want to put much on the paper, which is what I'm going for just for the moment. Like I said, somehow running a brush across a white piece of paper, maybe it's this paper, I'm not sure, you seem to not see it as much as when I put it onto the painting itself that has paint. So, yeah, I can see it a bit more. It seems to take onto paint rather than onto paper a little bit more, and which is fine, but just so long as you know that, and you can paint accordingly. So I just want to start adding some of that, those lines in through there, and certainly up through here we can right to the edge now. We're on to the edge. Alright everyone, this is the highlight thing. Okay, so let's re-evaluate that. So we've kept the highlight until now, and so now is a chance really softly to just feather in over that highlight, not going too crazy. And I've got my little brush now. What I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little clumps on my brush that I can see, and I just sort of, so I've got like 7 little lines going over there, if you know what I mean. Just feathering them in, not wanting to cover that highlight too much, but just introducing a little bit of colour at the top. And now I'm starting to sort of move it back again and just start adding in some colour just in that side, a little bit further away there. Nothing too much in your white yet. Just little feathers. I'm not sure how much you can see. I can just do the edge a little. But there's definitely some colour in there now, but not overtaking anything, which is good. And I've got a tiny little bit of maroon up there that I'll add to my brush. And just pop in a few sort of little stronger lines of colour in through there, now that my pink is about the tone I want. Somebody sent me the other day their painting, and they've done it in black and white. You know how you do that? Never really done that. I mean, I know people do that. They sort of look at, well, I was just talking about tone. They look at your painting, you look at your painting in black and white, sort of, and see all the tones from dark to light and stuff. Which I don't suppose there'll be many tones in here like that. Pink never does seem to be anything more than grey toned, no matter how dark you put it on. But I don't really do that. I really just look by eye. The only thing I really do to check my paintings, apart from leaving it for some time and then coming back with fresh eyes to look at something, is I can look at it in a mirror. That will really help you see different things. But ultimately I just sort of do it until I think it's done, really. I may in fact break every rule. I mean, I was just thinking about that the other day. There's lots of things that you kind of get told when you start painting, you know, watercolour, and I leave my watercolour paints out and I put them from the tube into the palette, and I paint with them for like months like that. The only thing I will do is cover them so that dust doesn't get on it, because every time you re-wet your paint, you've got little bits of dust and stuff, so that's never good. But apart from that, I mean, I do that. I hardly ever, it's not I hardly ever change my water, but my water I never change my water every session or anything like that. But I'm painting pink, so I don't mind. If it was sort of a greeny mess, I might, you know, I'm painting pinks and I want to keep them bright, I might. You know, and I'll paint with any old brush I can find, like this one. Which is why I say don't worry if you're not following the videos, you know, just everything should be so much easier and more fun painting. I don't know about all these rules.
You're fussy with your paint and your paper, right?
Fussy. Not really. Well, yeah, no, I don't mind the word fussy either. I'm not sure what you mean. I mean, in that I paint almost, you know, like 90% I paint from the tube, so I don't mix very much, so there's an orange there, but you know what I mean. So 90% of my colours are straight colours, and then I sort of do that on the paper. That could be considered particular, right?
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's where you get really great colour on your... Ooh, you know what I'm doing? I'm doing just on a side note that is still part of it. I'm doing some prints of a couple of paintings that I've finished since COVID, and I mean, hopefully that comes through, because the thing with doing it on the paper rather than in the palette is you get all this tones and all these colours coming through in a mix in a different way. And because if I needed that to be that nice bluey purple, and I put a wash of bluey purple there, well, everything's that. Right now I see sort of a more magenta stripe, a more bluey stripe, a quite a pale stripe, and then back to bluey stripe, and so it's all very textured that way, and that I don't think you see so much maybe on video and stuff, you know, probably. I wonder if the prints will pick it up as well. The prints will pick it up quite well, because the prints are quite nice. The people that do prints are pretty good. You do start seeing like all the lines of colour, and that's where, like, if somebody sees my work in person and you'd be like, wow, she really does a lot of line work. That's how I do it. I don't do it with a single brush, because you just wouldn't be able to get it that fine. And I think that's something as well. I think the combination of doing these two things works really well for watercolour. It really takes advantage of the fact that it's watercolour rather than acrylic or some opaque medium. You know, so that's kind of, I like that. So I'm just, this is that fluffing around thing that we do when we paint. And just sort of going over different things. Keep going back to my reference photos, seeing different how different things are happening. Like as I run the brush over something, some line appears that I want to take advantage of or then develop more. We can actually get up into here a bit more with some colour because that should be some a little bit deeper. Might go back to a softer pink though. So I'm just feathering that because what's happening is I'm just really lightly, as it is going over my little blue line, just in slightly, you'll see it in the video more, slightly magenta feathers coming down there, just for a little blend. Which I like. Okay, what else? Oh my goodness, it's almost half past. Where did the time go? Alright, now, so that's kind of all that technique. You can do up to there, if you so wish. Let me put some more colour into there because it's going to be darker and I think we need to balance that out. Otherwise I'll do that. Bite the bullet. Because, and it is a bit like that because I always think once I start having to add dark colour. Ooh, dark colour. So let's do, I'm going to put in something like that. Just this sort of muted maroon colour. Just that one there. Let's see. But what I'm also thinking is it does need something else, and that something else is possibly green. So we'll see. I'm just popping it, I think I want to put it just more at this end part. Even a little bit more like a wash rather than... Let me see if we're still in the zone. Possibly not. Alright. Okay. There's a little bit that went outside the lines. I'll have to go in with my flat brush and sort them out. I can do that later. What time is it? Everybody is... Hey, has everybody done the daylight savings thing or what?
10:30.
Oh my god. Holy moly. What time is it? 7:30 for you, Bonham? Okay.
We switched over a few weeks ago now.
Oh, did you? Mm. That's fine unless you're doing anything international and then it's like, oh...
Yeah, exactly. I love it actually because here in Dunedin it means that in summer it doesn't get dark until, I mean, at around solstice it gets dark at around 10:30.
Oh wow. That
great.
makes for nice sun barbecues and long evenings. Yeah, because you're going into summer.
Yeah.
Yay.
Much anticipated in this part of the world.
Yeah, really. And of course Dunedin's like, I don't know, do you get very hot down there?
No, not really. It's kind of a,
It's like, not
kind of a
really.
cool summer.
It's mild.
I mean, you can easily have 15, 16, 17 degree days.
Oh
That
my
happens all the
goodness.
time in summer.
Oh,
Oh my god.
I know, that's
I don't like it either. I really don't like it either, Bronwyn. Not a fan. I'm not originally from here, and I've never gotten used to it.
I know, you're like, come on. That's actually very British, you know. I mean, the English are like
Yeah,
that. It's
definitely. It is. I think it is.
English
It's like
summers.
a British summer. It's just, yes, you can have a 30-degree day, but you can just never count on it. It's just up and down the whole summer.
Yeah, that's a bit disappointing. And well, at least you get a long version of it though, because in England it literally lasts 6 weeks. I remember when I was living there, and I'll be like, "Is that it? Was it summer?" You know, as it starts to get cooler, and I'm like, "But I swear we only just started." Whereas in New Zealand, it's like 3 months, and you know, really. Well, I think we will it to start in December just because that's Christmas and the whole school holidays. You know, that kind of historical. You're off, but after that, you know, oops, I don't want that. After that, you sort of like January, February. We have a good run of our summers, I think. Well,
Yeah, I think that's true. And,
definitely
you know,
longer.
and even now, and even 6 weeks ago, we were getting the occasional day here or there, which was just amazing.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. In the South Island? Yeah, down the bottom of the South Island.
Almost falling off the end.
Yeah. So you went to get those Arctic winds,
Oh God, I could imagine.
southerlies.
Holy moly, I could imagine. That would be bad. Okay, so what I'm just sort of doing is with that purple, I was just picking up a few sort of lines of detail and things. It's very pretty, this actually. It looks really quite nice. It's getting a nice glow factor. From such a, you know, when you're using such a nice bright colour like the magenta, you sort of want it to be quite a nice bright finish. Otherwise we could have picked another colour. So I will keep painting for another 5 minutes and chat while we're still got some time. But in general, so that's your mission for the week. Really, is to It does look. I mean, it does look nice though, and it's starting out in person. It looks great.
Will you be doing any of the dry brushing on the far right-hand side? Yeah, that side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like on that section.
Yep. I'll do that over the whole thing now.
Okay.
So let's just do something quick. For instance, let's see. And then what I can do is I'll take photos as I go, so you can see. It really is about just sort of a little practice. Now, on this side though, let's see, we still want magenta. Still want. It's a little bit darker through there, and then it softens out a little bit, tiny bit there, and we want to capture that because, you know, got to paint something. Right, so if I do smushing, again, whatever that's called, smushing, and very gently. Actually, it's a tiny bit wet. If I could just wait for it to dry just a little bit, that'll be better. Now, what you've got to make sure you do is follow your lines of your petals so that your lines go in the right place. So I'm actually just running sort of midway from that blue down. I want it a bit dry, really. And see some darker colour just in through here, so we can do that as well. Let's see where I'm at with you. Okay, so for instance, run it up through that shadow. It gets lighter over there, so I'll just leave that for a moment. Let's see how much lighter it is. It's getting lighter. So I really want to be like, this is where your mastery, I can't say I do it all the time, your mastery of the long line is what's required. I tend to paint in longer lines, I don't, unless I'm dabbling, like, where I might be popping in something like that for texture purposes, and I know that the paint's going to dry like that, and I'm happy it will dry like that. But otherwise, I don't paint in too shorter lines unless I'm trying to feather something. I really like to try and paint in longer lines. It makes things easier to match as well, because if you're trying to, and if you're trying to fill in some colour, it sort of blends in better if you can be a bit longer with your. Now I just want to do tiny bit of something slightly stronger through there, and that it just give me just a line or two of colour. I just want to grab just something that's a little detail. Now this here is a bit greeny, so let's do that too. So here if you remember way back when, we actually did a yellow wash under there, and I can still see that quite a lot on my painting, which I like, and that's good. Just do some feathery bits on that shadow that can just come up, touch over it, just into the top highlight, but nothing too much, just a little. Just sort of whatever's on the edge of my brush, which isn't much. And maybe just a few lines down here. I can just